Okay, if I'm being perfectly honest, this year in progressive rock has been a little bit of a letdown. I haven't had those standout proggy works that I absolutely love to listen to. And it's part of the reason why this whole past summer I've basically been listening to almost exclusively pop music, just because there hasn't really been that one release or that one or two release that has really grabbed me and really been like, this is why you love listening to prog music. But I think we might have one of our first contenders. There's an album that we're about to talk about that really captured my interest, really grabbed hold of me, and really showcased all the reasons that I love prog. So, that being said, let's dive in. Arcana by Circe and Christian Nesmith. So, Circe and Christian Nesmith, I believe, are a married couple. I could be wrong on that, but I believe they're a married couple. And this is their 16th collective release. I only really know of this one. This is the first one that I've heard from them. Christian Nesmith, I believe his dad was a part of the Monkees. So, there's a lot of kind of production side of work within the know-how there. And Circe just has a very infectious and very immediate voice that reminds me of from like the 70s rock prog stuff, like from Heart and from Renaissance, that kind of flavor, that kind of oomph. It also kind of reminds me of like some of the women singers from like Kappa. It kind of has that same kind of aged, very pristine and well-loved vocals that they kind of channel. And that's one of the main stars on this, is really Circe's vocals. She's immediately inviting you in. It's immediately infectious. There's a number of moments on here that are just so pleasant and so inviting that I can't help but love it. And it's one of the big highlights for me on this record. The other thing is just the songwriting ship and how proggy it is. There are 5 tracks on here. 3 longer ones, 2 shorter ones, and the album ends with a 15-minute epic. It starts off with 2 tracks that are both over 11 minutes long, 2 tracks following that with 8.5 minutes and almost 10 minutes, and then ending off, as I mentioned, with a 15-minute epic. It's a great way to structure an album, especially one like this. This one is a semi-concept record with kind of tying into mysticism and the tarot cards, because each track is a tarot card. You've got the Tower, the Magician, the Fool, the Hangman, and the Chariot. And each one does kind of dive into like the specific interpretations and meanings behind these cards, and kind of like how personal it is, how what you bring to the cards is also what's bounced back to you. And there's a lot of different kind of like facets and meanings that you can have to those. But honestly, at the end of the day, it's the music. It's the music for me that really invites me in, and it's the type of retro prog that I've been begging for. You can hear and sample flavors from Yes and Genesis, and that kind of like celebration hippie style of very symphonic prog, without it being a complete retread or a complete copy and paste. Like, sure, there are moments that I'm like, ooh, that's a Steve Howe guitar lick, or ooh, that's a Tony Banks style of compositions. You can hear the influences, but you can hear the individual spins and the individual takes that they have, and that is one of the things that I really appreciate and I love. It's kind of like jazz in that, okay, I can recognize the note sequence, but what they're doing is so different that I can kind of give them a pass, which is very different than a lot of retro prog stuff that we've had lately, where I'm like, okay, that's just a straight up copy and paste riff, or that's the exact same soundscape and note sequences. You didn't even change the programming on the synthesizers. So with all that being said, you could basically close your eyes and already listen to this album. It's very keyboard focused. There's a lot of keyboard and synth sounds on here that I really like. They've got a very meaty and immediate rhythm section that's kind of infectious and really leading you on. There's a number of moments that have some really fun lead guitars on there. But once again, it's Circe's vocals that really are the star performer, and how she's able to kind of string the listener along. I love how each track also has a very great build up and payoff. I wouldn't necessarily say that there's any moment on here that has what I love within an epic, which has like kind of like that immediate infectious the clouds open up and the angels come down. It's like you've got this theme or this item that is right at the beginning of the track that's kind of reprised throughout, and then you have that big crescendo at the end. That's not necessarily found on here. What we have more is like a wandering of the landscape with really beautiful vignettes and very beautiful passages. This album also doesn't really have like the traditional call and response in terms of like chorus and verses. It's just kind of like going from one area to another area to another area with these kind of touchstone choruses every once in a while. These repeated reprisals that will allow the listener to kind of grab onto and be like, oh yes, that's right. Kind of between these either poetry sessions or these instrumental sessions. And at the end of the day, I really enjoy how these tracks are constructed in that way. Yeah, that's kind of a very short and sweet recommendation for me. If you're a fan of progressive rock, if you're a fan of this kind of retro prog, you're going to enjoy this one, and I highly, highly recommend it. So with that, I will say Arcana by Circe Link and Christian Nesmith is one that I would absolutely pick up in physical format. This one deserves to be in your collection. This one gets the note seal of approval. I was astounded and I love this record. I wouldn't necessarily say like this is a run, don't walk to go and listen to it, but this is one of my favorite prog pieces this year. And it's not just because I haven't really connected with too much prog this year. It really is a brilliant and beautiful, just a good time of prog. It's kind of reminding me of those smaller bands that have a lot of legacy behind them. I'm thinking of bands like Is or Evership or Southern Empire that kind of have that very long legacy of musicianship behind them. But, the amount of plays on Spotify are so small, they don't even register at the moment. So yeah, I would recommend this one. I would go and check this one out. And that's what I've got for Arcana by Circe Link and Christian Nesmith. What did you guys think about this record? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Whatever you thought, please let me know by commenting down below. That's all I've got for you guys today. So, thank you all so much for watching. As always, you guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.